Chapter 1450. The battle was very sudden, so sudden that the She clan members couldn't react at all. Before they set off, the military advisor had once said, "I'm 70% sure that there won't be many people guarding the Li clan at the Pear Blossom Slope. Moreover, it's still uncertain whether there are supreme martial artists among them." As everyone knew, Commander-in-Chief Diwu Qingru never spoke confidently. When he said he was 10% sure, he could do it. Because he said he was sure. When he said he was 70% sure, it was basically a done deal to others. And this time, the She clan members themselves also understood that this operation was purely a decision made by the headquarters to appease their anger and sorrow. Firstly, it allowed the She clan members to kill and vent their anger. Secondly, it was also the cheapest credit that would be given to them. In the future, when they annihilated the Li clan, this battle at Pear Blossom Slope would be the key. Everyone came excitedly and murderously, but never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that the other party had actually set up an ambush here as if they had foreseen it. Previously, there were so many changes in the formation, and the goal was simply confusing. How did the other party know that there was an ambush here? How were they so sure that they were going to attack here? A middle-grade supreme martial artist from the She clan was injured the moment he came. At this moment, he was miserably defending against the siege of a middle-grade supreme martial artist and two fifth-grade supreme martial artists from the Li clan. He shouted mournfully, "Why? Why is there an ambush here? Who was the one who leaked our information?" His voice shook the sky and spread far and wide. In his voice, that kind of grief, grievance and extreme despair of being betrayed seemed to have taken shape. The 8th grade supreme martial artist leading the Li clan was like the wind, his face full of cold murderous intent. Along the way, every time he attacked, he would definitely go all out. The She clan was led by two 7th grade supreme martial artists, but their strength was already a lot weaker. Once one of them was killed, the remaining one was even more helpless. They resisted desperately, but the subordinates around them were getting fewer and fewer. Blood splattered everywhere, and there were She clan members falling down continuously. In just a short time, there were only 5 She clan members left out of more than a dozen. Injured all over, they struggled to hold on shakily. This 7th grade supreme martial artist was furious. Suddenly, he shouted, "Stop! I have something to say." In the time it took to say this word, another 4th grade supreme martial artist was chopped into minced meat by 7 to 8 swords. The 8th grade supreme martial artist from the Li clan waved his hand, and more than 50 people from the Li clan formed a large circle. He surrounded the 5 of them. He said indifferently, "In the Jianghu campaign, it is either life or death. Now it has come to this. What else do you have to say?" This supreme martial artist of the She clan puffed out his chest. Blood dripped from his forehead, but he didn't wipe it off. He just stared at this 8th grade supreme martial artist of the Li clan with a ferocious face and asked fiercely, "Life and death are normal. When I stepped into the pugilistic world, I never thought of having a good ending. But today's matter. It was too strange, so he wanted to die with a clear understanding. Lord Li, I only have one question for you." The Li clan's supreme martial artist's black beard fluttered in the wind. His eyes narrowed slightly as he said, "Ask away. If I can answer, I will answer." The supreme martial artist from the She clan looked up to the sky and laughed. "Good. I, Shi Yunmo, believe in Old Master Li Jinglei. There is no hope of survival in today's situation. As long as I can die with a clear understanding and resolve the doubts in my heart, Shi Yunmo won't need Old Master Li to do anything. I will end my own life here." He paused and asked word by word, "How did you know about the attack on Pear Blossom Slope this time?" Without waiting for an answer, he added another sentence, "Did someone betray us?" This operation could be said to be top secret. If it wasn't for someone leaking the news in advance, Shi Yunmo believed that no one would have guessed Diwu Qingrou's deployment. So he suspected a traitor at the first moment. The 8th grade supreme martial artist of the Li clan, Li Jinglei, was about to answer when he suddenly thought of something. He laughed and said, "Yunmo guessed correctly. Someone informed us in advance. Since it has come to this, I won't hide it anymore." Shi Yunmo nodded slowly, his eyes bloodshot. "Thank you, Old Master Li. May I ask, Who is this person? The remaining 5 people of the She clan looked at Li Jinglei's face at the same time. Their eyes were filled with anger and hatred. Dying in battle wasn't scary, but being betrayed and dying was a grievance of the highest level. No martial artist could tolerate such a death, especially when they were dead, but the person who betrayed them was still free and unfettered. This was even more unacceptable. Li Jinglei's eyes flashed. He said, "Your She clan seems to have a grudge against the Chen clan, right?" Shi Yunmo trembled. "Chen clan?" Li Jinglei nodded lightly and said with pity, "There are some things that I don't want to do either. But the one you are attacking is the Li clan. So, even though this method is a little too cruel, I have no choice but to accept this, intelligence from the Chen clan." Above, Chu Yang couldn't bear to listen anymore. This old man from the Li clan is really shameless. This was obviously planned by Tianji, but he insisted that it was the Chen clan who leaked the news. The most infuriating thing is, these 5 people can't go back alive. They are dead for sure. So what if he told them the truth and respected the lives of those who died in battle? Why should he let them bear grudges even in death? Dong Wushang frowned and said, "Boss, I can't stand this old bastard. If I have the chance, I will definitely kill him with one strike." Chu Yang nodded slowly. "I don't object to killing him with one strike. But you may not have the chance. He may not live until the time you strike." Dong Wushang snorted and gripped the hilt of his saber tightly with his right hand. Especially with Dong Wushang's character, he couldn't stand Li Jinglei's deceit towards people who were about to die. He even felt that this was beyond despicable and shameless. This was the infinite despicableness of a person's heart. The despicableness of human nature. The despicableness of human nature. Shi Yunmo was stunned. Suddenly, he laughed miserably. "I see. I thought we were in the same boat this time. Ha ha ha. What a joke. Martial world, big clan, ha ha ha. What a joke, what a joke." As he laughed hysterically, his aura rose terrifyingly. Opposite, Li Jinglei was watching the show. Suddenly, he was shocked and shouted, "How dare you!" He flew forward. He hurriedly shouted, "Everyone, disperse." Shi Yunmo laughed miserably. "I said, I will kill myself. I have fulfilled my promise. Ha ha ha. Li clan. How about a few of you come with me? Don't be lonely on the road to the netherworld. Ha ha ha." Following the loud laughter, there was a loud bang, and the entire world seemed to shake violently. A blinding white light flashed in the arena, followed by an earth-shattering explosion. Self-destruction. Shi Yunmo's self-destruction was actually self-destruction. The power of a 7th-grade supreme martial artist's self-destruction was simply shocking. The 4 She family experts beside him were blown into pieces at the same time. The explosion spread out in all directions. Around 20 Li clan experts couldn't dodge in time. With a scream, they turned into smoke. Li Jinglei tried his best to stop it. But he only blocked 2 sides. He was also blown away by the violent blast. His face flushed red. When the explosion ended, Shi Yunmo had already turned into minced meat. On the ground, within 500 feet, there was no more snow, and a deep black pit appeared. Green smoke was rising from the pit, and it was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. It was like a passage to the netherworld, and it was filled with a ghostly aura. Li Jinglei roared to the sky, "Damn it, damn it, damn it," under the circumstances where the outcome was already decided. He actually let the other party self-destruct. This was a great humiliation. Li Jinglei felt that he had lost all his face. Of the 72 people, only 18 had died. The explosion actually killed 10 people. Such a mistake was simply unforgivable. Li Jinglei couldn't wait to give himself a few tight slaps. This is the fate of a despicable person. Above, the tree that Chu Yang and the rest were on also swayed up and down by the explosion. If not for Chu Yang and the rest using their cultivation to protect it, the tree would have fallen. Chu Yang looked down, his eyes cold. The other party is bound to die. If he had attacked immediately after explaining, this wouldn't have happened. Li Jinglei could have stopped this self-destruction. But his nature is too despicable. After lying to attack the people who were bound to die, he actually wanted to see the other party's despair and anger to increase his own pleasure. This gave the other party the chance to self-destruct. Mo Lei nodded slowly. Yes, since he attacked them, he definitely wanted to see the results. So, Li Jinglei has to take full responsibility for this self-destruction. Chu Yang shook his head and laughed coldly. What a joke. In such an intense battle, only 18 people died. An accidental self-destruction that shouldn't have happened actually killed 10 people. How ironic. If Mo Tianji finds out, I'm afraid this old guy will be punished. Dong Wushang gloated. Chu Yang frowned and shook his head. How can Mo Tianji bear to punish such a weirdo? He still has to keep him alive to let this kind of situation happen a few more times. Mo Lei instantly laughed. Below, the Li clan members were all in a daze. Of the 72 people, only 35 were left. Li Jinglei gritted his teeth and finally remembered Mo Tianji's words, retreat quickly after fighting. With a wave of his hand, he said, retreat. The 35 people didn't even bother to collect the corpses. They immediately retreated and entered the pear blossom slope. On the other side, Chen Jianlong was feigning an attack on Bai Shuya 100 miles away to contain the enemy's strength. Feng Shui could vaguely hear a long roar from the pear blossom slope. He just thought that the battle had already begun and didn't take it to heart. It was only until a violent explosion sounded that Chen Jianlong frowned suddenly. That's not right. This explosion was clearly the self-destruction of an expert. And it had to be at least a 5th-grade supreme martial artist. And according to the intelligence, there wasn't even a supreme martial artist guarding the place. How could there be such an earth-shattering self-destruction? Did something happen? Chen Jianlong frowned and immediately roared into the sky. Several supreme martial artists beside him also roared and soared into the sky, their voices echoing for hundreds of miles. On the other side, Xiao Zhangyang frowned. Why did they send out the assembly signal now? He immediately waved his hand and shouted, give up on this side and go over to take a look. His heart was in turmoil, his emotions were impetuous, and his heart was pounding. Chapter 1451. After a long while, Xiao Zhangyang and Chen Jianlong stood on the edge of the huge crater, their legs trembling and their bodies emitting cold air. They felt chills running down their spines. Looking at the big hole in front of them and the corpses on the ground in front of them, the two of them were shocked to the point where they could not say a word. The She clan was completely annihilated. Before they set off, they couldn't have imagined such a result. Their almost foolproof strategic plan had actually met with an extremely tragic defeat. How did this happen? Xiao Zhangyan's whole body was cold. He said this almost subconsciously. Yes, how did this happen? Chen Jianlong's expression was no better than Xiao Zhangyan's. His old face was pale. Those who died here were not ordinary experts, but at least 40 supreme martial artists. The rest were all saint-level expert. The death of these people would be an unprecedented blow to the She clan. It would also be a big blow to the alliance of the 8 superclans. Could it be? Xiao Zhangyang suddenly looked up at the chrysanthemum slope. Above, the Li clan's stronghold seemed to be paying attention to them. Xiao Zhangyang shouted, I am Xiao Zhangyang of the Xiao clan. Who from the Li clan is here? His voice was like thunder, rumbling forward. Along with the sound wave, a large amount of snow rolled forward with a terrifying momentum. A reply came from the other side. I am Li Jinglei. Brother Xiao, you are here too. Nice to meet you. When the 3 words Li Jinglei came out, Xiao Zhangyang and Chen Jianlong's expressions changed at the same time. Li Jinglei's status in the Li clan was similar to their status in their own clans. Since Li Jinglei was here, it meant that the Li clan had made a big move. But how could the other party grasp the timing so well? Above. This bastard. He can't do anything right, but he can spoil everything. Chu Yang was speechless. If he didn't speak, Xiao Zhangyang and Chen Jianlong might have tried to attack. At that time, the Li clan's ambush would attack, and we would join in immediately. At least half of these 2 clans would be left behind. It would be a glorious victory. He actually signed up without any hesitation. I'm really fucked up. What kind of idiot would give birth to this old thing? Moreover, the other party will report to Diwu Qingru once they return. Diwu Qingru will immediately know that Tianji and I are here. If they want to take advantage of Diwu Qingru in the future, they will have to do so. It's extremely difficult. Chu Yang was furious. This bastard. Damn it. Originally, when Diwu Qingru was hesitating and doubting, he could have at least taken advantage of this opportunity. But now, it's good. Dong Wushang's tiger-like eyes emitted a sharp and cold light. He slowly said, however, if you want to keep this information safe, you have to be careful. There is another way. What method? Mo Qingwu asked. There aren't many people down there. There are only about 140 of them. Dong Wushang's eyes shot out a cold glint like the edge of a blade. Kill them all. That's it. No. Chu Yang shook his head resolutely. There are too many enemies. He couldn't even finish it in one bite. Moreover, if the Li clan wanted to devour them, they would have to pay a similar price. The allied forces can bear these losses, but the Li clan can't. As he spoke, the people down below spread out in formation with a gesture from Chen Jianlong and Xiao Zhangyang. This was a sign that they were preparing to retreat. Moreover, the front and rear of the army were clearly separated. It was guaranteed that even if they were attacked, at least 1/3 of them would escape back. Xiao Zhangyang chuckled and said, Brother Li, the Li clan is very powerful. Zhengyang admires you greatly. However, I would like to ask, which great talent saw through our plan? Or, is there a mole? Li Jinglei burst into laughter. There is definitely no mole. Xiao Zhangyang was silent for a moment. Then, he said indifferently, in that case, farewell. With a sudden whistle, he leaped up and swept away like a whirlwind. Retreat! Chen Jianlong shouted. The team of more than 100 people rolled away, moving further and further away in the snow. In the blink of an eye, they had already disappeared into the dense snow. Li Jinglei didn't expect the other party to leave so decisively. He was also stunned for a moment before he said, Retreat. Go back and report. The group immediately retreated and then returned against the wind and snow. At the place where the ambush was, the Li clan troops leaped up from the snow and followed the team back. They went back just like that. On the tree, Chu Yang sighed. I really want to kill him. He told Diwu Qingru that there is a military advisor here with just one sentence. Dong Wushang was stunned. When did he tell him? Mo Lei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Pig. Let's go too. Chu Yang sighed. Duxing and the others have missed. According to Jiyu Duxing's IQ, he must be lying in ambush at Centipede Ridge right now. Just let the 4 of them lie there. Let's find a cave to sleep in. Everyone laughed and leaped up. In the camp of the Allied forces, Xiao Zhangyang and Chen Jianlong's return gave everyone a huge shock. Both teams came out unscathed. However, the problem was that 3 teams had gone out, but only 2 teams had returned. What about the other team? Where did they go? Zhengyang. Where are the people of the Shi clan? Yi Xiaoyaro came up. Dead, completely dead. Xiao Zhengyang said blankly. Ah. Yi Xiaoyaro trembled and was dumbfounded. After a while, everyone gathered in the big tent. Diwu Qingru sat on the main seat with a calm face. The allied forces of the 2 clans are back. Ha, 3 clans went out, and 1 fell. Diwu Qingru pressed his temples tiredly. Everyone, our real enemy is here. Ah! All the big shots were stunned. Real enemy? Real enemy that won't rest until one of us is dead. An enemy that is so strong that we can hardly fight against it. And an enemy of destiny. Diwu Qingru's words were heavier than the last. 3 sentences, like 3 thunderbolts, suddenly wedged into everyone's heart. This caused everyone to panic as they felt a boundless pressure pressing down on them out of nowhere. Tribulation? Tribulation Sword Master and his tribulation? Everyone discussed. Diwu Qingru slammed the table, and the sound was crisp. Everyone looked up and saw Diwu Qingru's serious face and majestic body. His sharp eyes slowly slid across everyone's faces, and he said slowly, I want to remind you. Now, it's time for the big clans to be removed, which means it's time for a change of dynasty. Everyone was in awe. Tribulation Sword Master has led his tribulation to enter the Li clan. Diwu Qingru said lightly, if we can't destroy Tribulation Sword Master and his tribulation in this battle, then after this battle, the world will collapse. The world. After this battle, the world will collapse. The only chance to win, to change our fate, is in this battle. If we can't win this battle, there won't be a second chance in the future. Diwu Qingru's eyes were cold. Commander-in-Chief. Yi Xiaoyaro thought for a while and said, why are you so sure that Tribulation Sword Master is here? It seems that the news that Xiao Zhangyang and Chen Jianlong brought back didn't mention Tribulation Sword Master at all. Diwu Qingru frowned. You have doubts. I don't dare. Yi Xiaoyaro took 2 steps back and sat down. If it was a few months ago, Diwu Qingru would have been slapped to death by Yi Xiaoyaro if he said that. You think you're the commander-in-chief? Do you really think you're the commander-in-chief? But now. Yi Xiaoyaro didn't get angry at all except for taking a step back and keeping quiet. He even felt that it was right. Before this, we were invincible. Today's battle is a great loss. Diwu Qingru said lightly, without the help of masters, how could the Li clan have such means? But now, in the world, how many masters are there? Except for Tribulation Sword Master and his tribulation, there's no one else. Not to mention that Li Xiongtu is one of the tribulations. Diwu Qingru only briefly explained. After giving Yi Xiaoyaro face, he immediately said, now, I have a few requests. If you can't agree, I'll hand over the commander-in-chief position. Everyone's face changed. First, in the past, we could laugh and talk about everything. I'll explain everything in detail. But from now on, there's no time to explain. I can only issue orders. And you must follow them unconditionally. At the moment of life and death, if you don't have strict discipline, you'll definitely lose, Diwu Qingru said. After he finished speaking, his sharp eyes swept across the room, and he repeated his words again, word by word, what I said is true. None of will obey of. Do you understand? Yes. Everyone immediately sat up straight. Their faces were solemn and serious. Diwu Qingru was right. If they still laughed and laughed in front of Tribulation Sword Master and Tribulation, they wouldn't even know how they died. For 10,000 years, Tribulation Sword Master had overturned the heavenly layer 8 times. This was the first time. Who dared to look down on him? Second, we don't have enough troops now. Diwu Qingru said, send a message to your clans and ask them to send more troop. Besiege Tribulation Sword Master. Yes. Third, after the new team arrives, I don't want to repeat the rules. I want you to organize them well. Once someone violates the rules, it's not a punishment, but a beheading. Yes. The 8 big clans will work together with the law enforcement officers. This will be the biggest event in the heavenly layer in the past 10,000 years. Diwu Qingru said quietly, I hope we can change our destiny and change the 10,000 years of reincarnation. Everyone's blood was boiling. The pressure of 10,000 years made everyone breathless at this moment. But at the same time, everyone's eyes were bursting with excitement. Change destiny. What kind of feat was this? No one could defeat Tribulation Sword Master and his tribulation in 10,000 years. Could we defeat them? The defeat this time brought about an unprecedented pressure. It also brought out tribulation, the opponent that Diwu Qingru had been looking forward to. Under such circumstances, Diwu Qingru's prestige also skyrocketed to an unprecedented height. Diwu Qingru's face was calm. He raised his head and looked at the cloud mountain quietly. A fighting spirit slowly surged in his heart. Chu Yang, you and I are finally going to fight again. Thank you Wo Chui, Lazy Cat, Onaling, Cooksmoke, If Time Could Turn Back, Really Crazy, Dragon Shadow Fantasy, Proud Blue Frost, A Night of Joy, Just Soy Sauce Tonight, Flying Snow, Wooden White Towel and other Alliance Masters for their gifts and support. During this period, too many brothers have given me gifts. Thank you all for your support. It would be impolite for me to accept your gifts. If I were to list them one by one, there would be too many people. I'm afraid it would exceed the number of words in this chapter. This makes me proud, but also a little nervous. I'd like to express my gratitude to all of you. I'll compile a list in a few days and thank you one by one. Thank you all for your hospitality. Chapter 1452. Looking at Li Jinglei, who had returned to report, Mo Tianji hurriedly pretended to yawn after he finished listening to the report. His mouth opened wide, and he fiercely controlled his eyes to not reveal a strong sense of surprise. However, a strong urge to jump up and curse rose in his heart. This was too weird. Even if they were powerful, they shouldn't have wasted their resources like this. In Mo Tianji's estimation, the Li clan wouldn't have suffered much from this sudden ambush. At most, a dozen people would have died, and the results would have been brilliant. But the current situation was. Even though the results were brilliant, the number of people who died was more than double of what they had expected. And there were a few who were missing limbs, and these were all due to accidents. Mo Tianji swallowed his saliva and shut his mouth. He looked at Li Jinglei, who kept saying it's my fault, it's my oversight without a hint of remorse on his face. Finally, Mo Tianji smiled gently and comforted him. It's all right. It's an accident. It's not your fault. How can you blame Elder Li? Li Jinglei sighed and said, it's a pity that there are so many heroes in the clan. I must comfort their families. He smiled apologetically and said, I'll go and make some preparations. Those who died. I'm willing to pay to comfort them. He turned and left hurriedly. Mo Tianji easily saw that the moment he turned around, the slight heaviness on his face had completely disappeared without a trace. His footsteps had also become light and quick. Mo Tianji observed the expressions of the other higher-ups of the Li clan and realized that they all looked relieved. As if the matter was resolved just like that. They were very satisfied, proud, and relaxed. Mo Tianji thought to himself, looks like. The Li clan thinks so. Even if it's a supreme martial artist. Even if a high-level supreme martial artist dies, it's just a sum of money to compensate them. Suddenly, he felt very ironic. An expert who risked his life for you, and you're going to give up just like that? Have you ever thought about the feelings of their families? Their bloodline inheritance? Did they die for the sake of innocent people? They shouldn't have died in the first place. Your negligence caused so many people to die, and you let it go so easily. Mo Tianji smiled warmly, but he had already judged the Li clan in his heart. The Li clan definitely had no future, definitely no future. As Li Wubo watched Li Jinglei leave, the expression on his face gradually turned into one of worry. He looked at Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji smiled and said, now, there is no other way. Prepare for a tough battle. Pay attention to the enemy's news at all times. Report to me no matter the slightest movement. All right. Li Wubo agreed. Somewhat hesitant, he asked, what does Brother Mo mean? The other party can already deduce that you're here from this stop? Mo Tianji's eyes flickered. They don't speculate about me. Instead, he would speculate that my brothers and I are all here. It's just a slip of the tongue, to such an extent. Li Wubo was tongue-tied for a long time, unable to utter a single word. Even though he had a strong urge to strangle Li Jinglei. But in the end, he did not dare to say it out loud. What Mo Tianji said was a mistake. He was referring to Li Jinglei's statement that there was absolutely no traitor. Li Jinglei's words were meant to stir up trouble. Did you really believe me when I said there was absolutely no traitor? His intentions were good, but his IQ was really not high enough. Such a clumsy attempt to provoke Diwu Qingru was like a child guessing a riddle with an adult. Guess how many pieces of candy I have in my hand? If you guess correctly, I'll give you all 3 pieces, just like that. It would have been better if he didn't say that. If Diwu Qingru couldn't react in time, he could really kill himself, just one sentence. Li Jinglei had given up their greatest advantage. How could Li Wubo not be so angry that his liver hurt? Li Ju quickly composed himself and respectfully accompanied Mo Tianji back. Along the way, He was full of praises for Mo Tianji and expressed that he would definitely learn from Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji smiled, thinking that he had made a wrong decision. How good would it be if the one accompanying him now was not Rui Butong but Dong Wushang? Dong Wushang would definitely grab this chattering fellow by the neck and throw him out. Rui Butong would only watch the show and build his happiness on top of his own pain. Not long after Mo Tianji returned to the small courtyard, Li Xiongtu also returned. A few sleds followed behind, pulling the carriage. It was obvious that Li Xiongtu was very attentive towards Meng Huanhuan's parents. Seeing that Li Ju was in his courtyard, Li Xiongtu was a little surprised. After greeting him, he helped the two elders down the carriage and arranged their accommodations. Li Ju waited for him to make the arrangements and said with a smile, "Xiongtu, now that you have brought Miss Huanhuan's parents to your side, you have no more worries, right?" Li Xiongtu said gratefully, "Yes, I am extremely grateful for this decision of the clan." Li Ju's eyes flashed and he said with a smile, "Yes, now is an eventful time. The clan wants me to tell you that from now on, our clan will have to fight with all our might." Li Xiongtu said loudly, "Of course. I, Li Xiongtu, will definitely not fall behind." Li Ju smiled and nodded. "Good." Mo Tianji looked on coldly and sighed in his heart. "Silly boy, how far are you going to let them use you?" The situation on the road was turbulent. At this moment, the 7 great clans all turned their attention to the battle in the northwest. More and more troops were coming. The Xiao clan even sent out all their elites. Xiao Chenyu, the elder master of the Xiao clan, personally went north, causing a huge commotion. The second in command of the Xiao clan, Xiao Chenlei, went missing in the Poplar Valley in the southeast. Xiao Chenyu waited for a long time, but Xiao Chenlei didn't return. He went to check in person, but there were no clues. In shock and anger, he went directly to the Chu clan in the flat mountain ridge and asked to see the Moonbreeze couple. Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro said that they didn't know. Xiao Chenyu couldn't do anything to the Chu clan that was overseen by the Moonbreeze couple. He returned resentfully. Now that he heard that the Tribulation Swordmaster and the others appeared in the northwest, Xiao Chenyu thought of the dragon and phoenix dance and the birth of tribulation. He wondered if the disappearance of his second brother had something to do with the Tribulation Swordmaster. Could it really have nothing to do with Chu Yang? But then the clan confirmed the news 3 days ago. Jiyu Duxing, Mo Tianji and Luo Kedi were the kidnappers, and Chu Yang of the Chu clan was close to these people. There was almost no distinction between them. Xiao Chenyu immediately concluded that if Chu Yang wasn't the Tribulation Swordmaster, he must be the kidnappers. He must be the kidnappers. Then, in fact, it still had something to do with Chu Yang. If he found Chu Yang, he would know the exact news of his second brother. And the Chu clan had the Moonbreeze couple overseeing it. No matter how arrogant Xiao Chenyu was, he wouldn't dare to face the Moonbreeze couple alone. In addition, when he used his divine consciousness to search the Chu clan, Chu Yang wasn't there. Since tribulation appeared in the northwest, then Chu Yang must also be in the northwest. So Xiao Chenyu came all the way to the northwest. Xiao Chenyu moved. Suddenly, wind and thunder were everywhere. Everyone was looking at the northwest silently. No one really understood the relationship between the two brothers, Xiao Chenyu and Xiao Chenlei. They were born from the same mother, they were also lifelong confidants, and more importantly, lifelong comrade. They were each other's spiritual support. Xiao Chenyu came all the way from the southeast in a carriage. He walked especially slowly. After Yi Chen reached an agreement with him. He had already returned to the Yi clan. Before he left, he had advised him, "Don't leave the southeast so easily." But Xiao Chenyu stepped out of the southeast on the 5th day after Yi Chen left. He just sat in the carriage with his eyes closed, not moving at all. In front and behind him were his personal guards, as well as his brothers who had gone through thick and thin in the past. Behind the carriage was the Xiao clan's elite team. 8 horses pulled the carriage. The carriage didn't have curtains at all. Xiao Chenyu also wouldn't allow anything to block his eyes. The north wind blew against him, but Xiao Chenyu didn't move. His eyes were closed. The expression on his face was warm and relaxed. He was reminiscing, facing the north wind. His thoughts, however, wandered over the past 1,000 years. Back then, his great father only left behind the Xiao clan's stall, and then he never returned. He and his second brother worked together to recruit talents from all over the place. They developed their business and finally became one of the great clans. Then, generation after generation, their development continued like this. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Back then, so many brothers came one after another, some died, and some left. But the current Xiao clan had after all developed into a colossus. For so many years, he and his second brother relied on each other and weathered the storms of the martial world. They had never been separated. That time, when he killed merciless tyrant, he was seriously injured and almost died. Even the divine doctor of the Medicine Valley said that he couldn't be saved. It was his second brother who watched over him every day, exhausting his energy dozens of times a day to treat his injuries. Later, he even used up half of the Xiao clan's assets in exchange for a piece of heaven-nourishing jade from the Medicine Valley. Then, his second brother used the method of damaging his own spirit to eliminate the aura of life and death on the heaven-nourishing jade. He turned it into an elixir and fed it to Xiao Chenyu, finally saving him. But the price he paid was. From then on, he was an early-stage supreme martial artist, with no hope of advancing in his lifetime. Now, his second brother was missing. Xiao Chenyu didn't want to believe that his second brother was dead. Until now, he had always insisted that his second brother was just missing. Ever since the reappearance of the Calamity Sword, the Xiao clan had been in constant changes. First, the younger generation kept losing their lives. Then, his eldest son, Xiao Se, also died in battle in Tianji City. Thinking of this, Xiao Chenyu sighed, his interest waning. He thought of the little meatball that made him go crazy with joy when it was born. When he first held it in his arms, he thought of the hardships his son had encountered as he grew up. Now, his son was dead, but he was still alive. His younger brother was missing, but he was still alive. The clan was in a precarious situation, but he was still alive. Maybe, I've lived for too long. Xiao Chenyu took a deep breath and let out a long sigh. Then, the muscles on his face twitched slightly. He muttered, "If my second brother is really, then, even if I have to slaughter the whole world, I will take revenge. What kind of person is my second brother? If even he, then, what right do those people who still exist in the world, as insignificant as ants and as stupid as pigs, have to live longer than my second brother?" His state of mind changed. Suddenly, an overwhelming aura of hostility appeared and swept across the clear sky. At this moment, everywhere it passed, there was complete silence. Yesterday, I went to the hospital. A few of my colleagues from back then were already there. Everyone kept me company. Because of the cruel car accident, my business teacher didn't say a word from the moment he was sent to the hospital. Until he passed away after 22 o'clock, he only opened his eyes once. He wasn't even 40 years old. After returning home, I felt weak all over. Suddenly, I felt very illusory. Until now, the mournful cries of my sister-in-law still seemed to be echoing in my ears. I couldn't describe what I was feeling. The accident is being handled, but the follow-up doesn't seem to be important. All I can do is to pay attention. All words of comfort seem so weak, I can't say anything more. This is the first update of the day. G. Chapter 1453. Xiao Chenyu passed by the Yi clan's territory. Yi Chen was already waiting for him along the way. The two old friends met again in less than half a month, but it felt as strange as if it was a different world. Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back on the tree-lined ancient path, while Xiao Chenyu sat silently in the carriage. The two of them looked at each other silently. After a long time, Yi Chen didn't say a word. In a flash, he disappeared. Xiao Chenyu closed his eyes and said indifferently, "Let's go." Old friends of 10,000 years met on the road, but they didn't say a word. Not even telepathic communication. Just looking at each other for a while, both of them already knew each other. Yi Chen returned to the Yi clan, while Xiao Chenyu continued on his journey. Everything was peaceful. Yi Chen came here to persuade Xiao Chenyu to go back, but he could feel Xiao Chenyu's determination to die 1,000 times over. No matter what he said, it was unnecessary. And at this moment, in the snowy northwest, a battle was unfolding. The Dharma Supreme stood at the peak of the snow cliff, his black robe fluttering in the wind. His black hair parted and fell down, his gaze was calm and deep in thought, but with a hint of fierceness. He could feel the fierce aura behind him getting closer and closer. Ever since he revealed a little of his divine perception to help Diwu Qingru that day, the Dharma Supreme knew that he was being watched. And he also knew who this person was. Wu Jucheng. The Dharma Supreme could only hide. His great merit had yet to be accomplished. Even if he were to face the Moonbreeze couple at the same time, the Dharma Supreme was confident of defeating them. But against this person, the Dharma Supreme had no confidence at all. With one chasing and the other hiding, the two of them had been playing hide-and-seek for almost a month. But now, the Dharma Supreme didn't hide anymore. In this month, he had made use of the other party's shocking pressure to train his spirit fusion and digest the heaven-nourishing jade in his body. Now, he had already reached the stage of perfect fusion. He had broken through the last step. The Dharma Supreme was now at the peak. He was no longer afraid of anyone. Furthermore, after such a sudden breakthrough, he couldn't wait to prove his strength. And now, in this situation, Wu Jucheng was the best candidate. He stood with his hands behind his back, his black robe and black hair dancing in the wind and snow. He wanted to fly straight into the air. The snow that filled the sky was thick and dense, but not a single piece of it touched his body. When it got close to his body, it was gently bounced off by an indescribable force and scattered far away. Although his expression was calm, his aura was soaring to the sky. That was a kind of absolute confidence. No one in this world can stop my monstrous self-confidence. The snowstorm suddenly intensified. A white figure abruptly appeared in the void 200 feet in front of the Dharma Supreme. This person's entire body seemed to have become one with the wind and snow. He stood in the void with his hands clasped behind his back, looking at the Dharma Supreme indifferently. Neither of them spoke. They just looked at each other quietly with a faint smile on their lips. Snowflakes within 100 miles. They were all smashed into pieces. After a long while, the Dharma Supreme smiled gently. "You're here." As he spoke, his imposing aura suddenly withdrew, and then his figure flew back by 60 m like a feather. He took the initiative to leave some space for the other party. Wu Juecheng didn't move forward. He merely smiled calmly. "You're not running anymore." The Dharma Supreme smiled indifferently. "Why should I escape?" With a whoosh, Wu Juecheng floated forward, crossing the distance of 60 m. Standing on the cliff, he asked, "Why?" Wu Juecheng's question was a little out of the blue, but the Dharma Supreme understood what he meant. He replied, "For myself." Wu Juecheng shook his head indifferently, a smile appearing at the corners of his mouth. Then, he suddenly looked up and laughed loudly. "That's right. That's right. Every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. That's a really good reason." The Dharma Supreme didn't say anything. He just smiled in response. With his hands clasped behind his back, Wu Juecheng said, "These few days, your aura has been steadily getting stronger. I can feel it, but I won't interrupt you. It's only now that you've finally completed your cultivation that I come out to meet you." The Dharma Supreme said indifferently, "Won't interrupt me? Ho! That's because you don't dare to. You're afraid. You're afraid that if you suddenly interrupt me, it'll create inner demons in your heart. Even if you can kill me, you won't dare to." Wu Juecheng nodded. "That's right. Killing you is a small matter, but inner demons are a big matter." The Dharma Supreme laughed. "So you can only wait until now." With his hands clasped behind his back, Wu Juecheng smiled. "It's the same to me at any time. I don't need to prepare to kill you." The Dharma Supreme laughed lightly. "Not necessarily. Don't you have any other questions to ask me?" Wu Juecheng nodded lightly. "Yes, I have other questions to ask you. Back then, you were seriously injured. How did you recover in such a short time and become even stronger than before?" The Dharma Supreme laughed. You also know that I'm not Dongfang Badao. You once said that you're Lu Long. There was some mockery in Wu Jueqing's eyes. However, the rumored Lu Long is a righteous man who keeps his promises and never plays trick. But you're not. The Dharma Supreme smiled. Then who exactly are you? Asked Wu Jueqing. The Dharma Supreme shook his head and laughed. Let me answer your question first. When I was seriously injured back then, the body that Dongfang Badao left me was almost completely destroyed. All my internal organs were almost completely shattered. Moreover, the vitality of my cell phone all these years turned into nothing. All these years, I had been relying on seizing vitality to destroy and suppress Dongfang Badao's remnant soul. However, although my body was seriously injured to the point where there was no vitality, Dongfang Badao's remnant soul finally disappeared for real at the moment his physical body died. This was my chance. I was supposed to die, but I realized that although my body was dead, I wasn't. It was only then that I understood that this body had now completely become an ownerless object. So I immediately activated my power and slaughtered those people in the Medicine Valley to seize the heaven-nourishing jade. You also know that the heaven-nourishing jade is useful for people whose spirits have dissipated. In other words, it is useful for the dead. I used the dissipation and death of this body's remnant soul to dissolve part of the heaven-nourishing jade's power of reincarnation and converted the remaining part into vitality of the heaven. Using the vitality of the heavens to reconstruct this body, but those heaven-nourishing jade were not enough. So I slaughtered the Medicine Valley and used all the heaven-nourishing jade to transform and cultivate. Until now, this body has been completely transformed by me into an innate body. Moreover, it is a body of vitality. As a blessing in disguise, Dongfang Badao's spirit has also completely dissipated. Now, even a strand of hair on this body is mine. It no longer has anything to do with Dongfang Badao. And my divine technique has also achieved great success because of this. The Dharma Supreme said somewhat sadly, back then, the soul energy of my brothers has also finally been refined by me and turned into my own strength. Therefore, my current strength has already completely surpassed Ning Tianya. There was anger in Wu Jueqing's eyes. Your brother's soul energy. You actually refined your brother's soul energy. That is your brother. My brother's soul energy is also my brother's soul energy. Energy is energy, regardless of whether it is a brother or a wife. The Dharma Supreme said coldly, moreover, that enemy was so powerful that I couldn't contend with him at all. If I don't think of a way, am I supposed to wait for death? Despicable and shameless. Wu Jueqing slowly uttered these words. You are not worthy of being a kidnapper. Ha ha ha. Kidnapper. Ha ha ha. This is really fucking bullshit. The Dharma Supreme laughed maniacally. Wu Jueqing, what do you think a kidnapper is? What kind of bullshit does this title represent? I am not worthy. Ha 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 ha, fucking kidnapper. It is the kidnapper who is not worthy of me. Wu Jueqing's eyes were burning with anger. Gritting his teeth, he said word by word, heartless and unscrupulous, you are worse than pigs and dogs. Back then, if not for your brothers, how many times would you have died? And now, you actually say such words. The Dharma Supreme laughed heartily, laughing to his heart's content. Even tears were coming out of his eyes. He bent over, holding his stomach, laughing so hard that he was panting. Wu Jueqing. Why don't you say that if not for me back then, how many times would they have died? Wu Jueqing took a deep breath. Suddenly, a shocking murderous intent appeared abruptly. Having said so much, he already didn't want to say another word. Right now, he only wanted to destroy this person who had insulted the thing that he valued and treasured the most. Tear him into pieces. What I value the most in my life is brotherhood. Every single one of my brothers back then is still alive in my heart. Everything that they have done for me, I will remember in my heart. Their looks, figures, habits, family situation, hobbies, catchphrases, and even some of the things that they have said before, are still vivid in my mind. This is my treasure, and also my pillar of support. My brothers. Now, you have insulted the feelings of the kidnapper, insulted the brotherhood of the kidnapper. Even if the people you have insulted have nothing to do with me, The brotherhood between them is the same as what I value the most. A traitor has no right to insult such feelings. These words were all in Wu Jueqing's heart. He didn't say a single word. He felt that if he did, it would be an insult to these words in the ears of the other party. An imposing aura was born, bringing with it a furious pressure that could collapse the sky and an earth-shattering murderous intent, pressing down on the Dharma Supreme like a tidal wave. The Dharma Supreme laughed coldly. Wu Jueqing, do you think that you can still defeat me so easily? His two hands separated and his black robe fluttered violently. An indescribable aura, bringing with it a kind of grand evil, gushed out fiercely. It was obviously evil, yet it gave off a grand feeling. Wu Jueqing's eyes narrowed, but he didn't say a word. He walked forward step by step. With his first step, the whole space shook violently. With his second step, the whole mountain under his feet shook. With his third step, everything within a 1,000-mile radius shook at the same time. The whole space was filled with a violent aura and suffocating murderous intent. He was an incomparably proud person. Since he had decided that the other party wasn't worthy of him speaking, he wouldn't speak again until the end of the battle. The Dharma Supreme's long hair danced in the wind and snow, like many strange black snakes, twisting and turning in the air. Chapter 1454. Wu Jueqing was advancing. Every step he took shook the mountains and the earth. After 3 steps, the mountains and valleys began to rumble together. The heavens seemed to be trembling at this moment. The accumulated snow on the surrounding mountains rose like smoke, spreading and surging like waves. The Dharma Supreme stood tall and straight, looking at Wu Jueqing. His gaze was relaxed, and even a little amused as he watched Wu Jueqing walk toward him step by step. Wu Jueqing had already taken his first step. His aura had already accumulated to its peak. His murderous aura had also reached its peak. His battle intent had also risen to the point where it could burn the heavens. If he were to strike now, it would be an earth-shattering attack. But the Dharma Supreme obviously didn't want to accept Wu Jueqing's attack just like that. Just as Wu Jueqing had just taken his first step, before his foot even landed on the ground, the Dharma Supreme suddenly moved. He suddenly stretched out a leg and stomped forward. His body leaned forward slightly. An extremely strong aura suddenly rushed out, facing Wu Jueqing's aura head-on, repelling force. At the moment when Wu Jueqing's aura had just taken shape, the Dharma Supreme decisively attacked, interrupting the possibility of this force truly reaching its peak. At this moment, Wu Jueqing felt extremely strange. It was as if he was suddenly stopped just as he was about to explode. With an angry snort, he took his 7th step. With a loud explosion, the two forces of qi were in a stalemate for a moment. A strange sound of tearing silk was heard, which made people's teeth ache. Then, starting from the middle, it suddenly rushed into the clouds like a tornado. The clouds in the sky were suddenly swept away, leaving a line in the sky. Under their feet, there was another strange tearing sound that made one tremble in fear. From the ground right between the two, a crack suddenly appeared. This entire mountain, like a snow-white steamed bun that was suddenly torn apart from the middle by someone, separated. With a loud boom, the two of them didn't move, but the two mountains that were separated retreated rapidly. The distance between the two of them suddenly increased to 500 feet just like that. Wu Jueqing's clothes were as white as snow. He suddenly flew up, rushing into the air with a whoosh. Like a snow-white crane, rushing up into the snowstorm. The moment he flew up, a blue color suddenly appeared on his body. Then, it turned into a blue whirlwind that wrapped around his body. With a whoosh, he crossed this space and soared through the air. All the snow on the ground. Following his pouncing momentum, all of them swept towards the Dharma Supreme in an orderly manner. The Dharma Supreme did not utter a single word as he rose into the air. He floated up and an evil black aura suddenly appeared on his body. Then, like a cannonball, he charged towards the rapidly approaching Wu Jueqing. It was just a flash. Due to the high speed, the afterimages left behind by the two of them could still be seen clearly, but the two of them had already collided fiercely. Wu Jueqing's left palm, right fist, kick, and kick had already transformed into 2 elbows in an instant, smashing down madly with the force of 10,000 catties. The Dharma Supreme's hair stood on end. His body moved forward rapidly as the other party's knee came towards him. His body suddenly and strangely floated into a straight line in the air. His 2 hands grabbed at Wu Jueqing's hands fiercely. Wu Jueqing's left palm cut fiercely while the Dharma Supreme's right hand grabbed at his meridians. Wu Jueqing's left hand turned into a fist and smashed down hard on the Dharma Supreme's fingers. The Dharma Supreme changed his move, a finger with a strong black aura pointing upwards. Wu Jueqing immediately changed his move, cutting horizontally at the other party's wrist. The Dharma Supreme retracted his finger and his right elbow suddenly struck out. Wu Jueqing's eyes flashed and he similarly struck out with his elbow. This was only one side. On the other side, the Dharma Supreme's left hand and Wu Jueqing's right hand similarly changed their moves 7 to 8 times, and similarly met with their elbows. Bam, 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 their elbows collided fiercely for more than 100 times in the air. Then, with a whoosh, the Dharma Supreme let out a muffled grunt while Wu Jueqing let out a cold snort. The Dharma Supreme's body flew backwards in a straight line. Similarly, Wu Jueqing retreated in the air with a whoosh, as if he was being pulled by a rope behind him. The next moment, the 2 of them who were retreating at high speed suddenly changed their direction to advance rapidly. This created a strange and incomprehensible phenomenon. In the air, a row of Dharma Supreme's illusory figures was retreating rapidly, but another row of illusory figures was advancing rapidly. At the same time, it was the same for Wu Jueqing on the opposite side. The 2 rows of illusory figures in the air were either advancing or retreating, but the 2 of them had already reached a height of 10,000 feet in the air. The illusory figures left behind along the way were still clearly of countless Dharma Supreme and countless Wu Jueqing figures battling with each other. Advancing bit by bit, the illusory figures could actually completely reproduce the entire process. Taking in the mountains and rivers into the chest, taking in the heavens and earth as mustard seed. The Dharma Supreme howled into the sky. Wu Jueqing, you have also reached such a stage. Opposite him, Wu Jueqing didn't say a word. Instead, each move was more ruthless than the previous, bombarding indiscriminately with attacks that seemed to split the heavens and earth. The Dharma Supreme couldn't stop laughing. Opposite him, Wu Jueqing's face was full of disdain and he didn't say a word. The 2 of them, one moving and one still, actually contrasted each other beautifully. Only the battle of life and death between the 2 of them was left. In the time that an ordinary person could only take a breath, they had already exchanged 1,700 moves each. Banging sounds rang out continuously. The 2 of them were 10,000 feet in the air, but the surrounding mountains were trembling as if dancing. It could even be said that they were twisting. The 2 figures kept separating, converging, and separating again. Suddenly, the sky was filled with the black and white afterimages of the 2 figures, densely packed, filling up the entire sky. It was as if there was no place for the white snow in the sky to stay. Another collision occurred. Wu Jueqing's palm, which was emitting blue aura, struck the Dharma Supreme's right chest ruthlessly. At the same time, the Dharma Supreme's palm, which was emitting black aura, also struck Wu Jueqing's left shoulder. As if struck by lightning at the same time, the 2 of them flew out in opposite directions in the air like kites with broken strings. Halfway through their flight, they both spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Then, the entire scene in the sky seemed to have suddenly come to a standstill. Immediately after, a huge explosion occurred. Rings and rings of air rippled outwards like fish scales. As they spread, rings and rings of space cracks appeared in the sky. They were dark, like the mouth of a demon, opening and closing savagely. The mountain rocks and snow danced wildly in the sky as if they had come to life, just as the huge explosion occurred here. And at another place hundreds of miles away, the 2 of them were already standing face to face, facing each other with solemn expressions. Wu Jueqing's face was a little pale, while the Dharma Supreme's face was a little grey. Both of them were injured, and it seemed like they were evenly matched. Wu Jueqing still didn't say anything. The Dharma Supreme took a breath and said, "Brother Wu, you can feel it too, right? I'm no longer the me from a year ago. He smiled somewhat conceitedly. A year ago, I could only look up to you. But now, I'm already on par with you. His eyes flashed and he said, give me another half a year and I'll be able to kill you. He paused for a moment. Then, he said solemnly, kill you. Dog. You're like a dog. Wu Jueqing still didn't say anything. He only looked at the Dharma Supreme, his eyes full of contempt. Contempt, disdain, what he meant was, with trash like you, other than fighting, I don't have the mood to say a single word. Saying a single word would be an insult to the word. He knew that the Dharma Supreme was trying to provoke him. But not only was he not angry, he was instead full of contempt. He only looked at the Dharma Supreme with disdain, his eyes full of contempt. The Dharma Supreme suddenly felt a surge of anger in his heart. He had been provoking the other party all this while, but the other party didn't give any response at all, and was just looking at him with such disdain. But it was this kind of silent contempt that the Dharma Supreme couldn't stand. Wu Jueqing was like a high and mighty judge, looking at the criminal before him with contempt, as if he was looking at a bedbug. Although he didn't say anything, every breath was saying, you're a heartless villain who's worse than a pig or a dog. The Dharma Supreme wasn't angry because of this attitude. What he couldn't stand was that in front of Wu Jueqing, he was actually lower than him psychologically. No matter how much he tried, he couldn't raise his head. No matter what, he just didn't have the confidence. As time went by, the Dharma Supreme finally roared furiously, what's so great about you? What right do you have to look at me like this? Aren't you a kidnapper? Aren't you the only one left among the brothers from back then? Don't you feel better? How much more noble are you than me? How much more at ease can you feel than me? Wu Jueqing's eyes were like ice, looking at him coldly and disdainfully. We're the same. The same, do you understand? The Dharma Supreme said angrily, two grasshoppers on the same line, who can be more superior than the other? I'm different from you. Wu Jueqing didn't intend to say anything at first, but this same sentence made him unable to hold it in, because this was what he was most proud of. Do you really think I don't know who you are? Do you really think I'll believe that you're Lu Long? The Dharma Supreme was startled. Then, he suddenly burst into laughter, his eyes somewhat crazed and ferocious. You've spoken? Didn't you refuse to speak? Ha ha ha. Didn't you still speak? He could be sanctimonious in front of anyone in the world, but not Wu Jueqing. Even if his brothers from back then came back to life, he wouldn't feel as much pressure as facing Wu Jueqing. Because he and Wu Jueqing were the only survivors, and Wu Jueqing was much older than him, but his loyalty had never changed. But he had already betrayed him. Although he had never admitted his betrayal, deep in his heart, he knew very well that he was no longer who he was back then. But Wu Jueqing was still Wu Jueqing. He wasn't afraid because he was weaker than Wu Jueqing, but because he felt guilty, the guilt of his conscience. This was enough to make him unable to straighten his spine in front of Wu Jueqing for the rest of his life. In front of Wu Jueqing, he didn't even have the right to straighten his spine. This was also the reason why he wanted to frame Wu Jueqing during the battle of slaying of Dao. Even if his cultivation was 10,000 times higher than Wu Jueqing's, he wouldn't be able to lift his head in front of Wu Jueqing. First update. Gee, I have something to do tomorrow, so I'll be working overtime through the night after today's 2 updates. I'll publish tomorrow's 2 chapters whenever I'm done writing them. Gee. Chapter 1455. The Dharma Supreme's eyes were a little solemn. The final attack of the 2 shadows actually didn't manage to kill Wu Jueqing, who was severely injured and had lost his essence. He had thought that the heavenly demonic energy could directly destroy Wu Jueqing, but he didn't expect Wu Jueqing to be so strong. Not only did he not die on the spot, he even managed to injure him severely. If Wu Jueqing had died, it wouldn't matter even if he participated in the operation with this body. But now, Wu Jueqing wasn't dead. Yes. Both of them bowed and answered. This is my identity token. Seeing it is the same as seeing me. Mobilize the law enforcement officers and cooperate with Diwu Qingru. The Dharma Supreme said sinisterly, understood. Understood. Cooperating with Daewoo Chingru was not cooperating with the 8 super clans. Of course, both of them weren't fools. The Dharma Supreme snorted, some resentment in his eyes. He really didn't expect Wu Jueqing to have the 7 poisons that could temporarily suppress the heavenly demonic energy. Otherwise, Wu Jueqing would have died today and he wouldn't have suffered such serious injuries. But now, it was too late to say anything. The Dharma Supreme was also a tragic coincidence. In order to treat Chu Le-er's injuries, Chu Yang had prepared the 7 poisons. Wu Jueqing naturally knew how to treat Chu Le-er's injuries and asked Chu Yang if there were any left, and these 7 poisons were not present when Wu Jueqing was with the Dharma Supreme. But in this 1 year, Chu Yang had given them to Wu Jueqing. It was also because of this that Wu Jueqing's life was saved today, and the reason why Chu Yang gave them to Wu Jueqing was because Wu Jueqing had taken Chu Le-er as his disciple. And part of the reason why Chu Yang was able to gather these medicines was because of the medicine banquet, and the medicine banquet. It was arranged by the Dharma Supreme and the Medicine Valley. In that case, the Dharma Supreme's flawless plan was destined to leave behind an opponent here from that moment onwards. If anyone were to ponder over this matter, they would be flabbergasted there was actually such a thing in this world. The Dharma Supreme's body flashed and disappeared without a trace. He didn't trust anyone, even if they were his personal bodyguards. Therefore, for his recovery, he had to find a place secretly, using a secret technique. He wouldn't let anyone know of his whereabouts. Although the Daewoo clan's great cause might be a little affected because of his injuries this time, the Dharma Supreme believed in Daewoo Chingru. It wasn't a big problem. Moreover, his injuries were the most important thing now. Even if the Daewoo clan was wiped out because of this, the Dharma Supreme would have to recuperate first. Rise because of me, fall because of me, it's nothing much. That was what the Dharma Supreme thought. Wu Jueqing, who had retreated, was also rejoicing. Who would have thought that Daewoo Chochang would be so terrifying now? His advancement was truly inconceivable. He had indeed been too careless this time. However, because of this, the Dharma Supreme won't be able to recover for at least 4 to 5 months after this battle. This should be very beneficial to those little fellows, Wu Jueqing thought. It's just a pity for this old man's old bones. Looks like I have no choice but to open my mouth and ask for heavy pills. Wu Jueqing laughed bitterly in his heart. Suddenly, he felt a surge of emotions. This heavy pill, I ate it back then. When he thought of this, Wu Jueqing actually couldn't help but feel a lump in his throat. He heaved a long sigh and turned around to leave. He did not return to Chu Le-er's place. He was also worried that if the Dharma Supreme really sent people to chase after him, at that time, if his heavenly demonic energy flared up, he really would not be able to protect his disciple. Besides, he didn't want Chu Le-er to see him injured. That little girl would definitely cry, Wu Jueqing thought. He headed towards the northwest. In these few days, Daewoo Chingru launched attacks continuously. Every time, he was very cautious. Mo Tianji stayed at the Li clan and dealt with every move as they came. He dealt with them one by one. Daewoo Chingru's attacks were very measured and Mo Tianji dealt with them with ease. No one gained the upper hand and no one was able to gain any advantage. The two sides were in a stalemate. Both sides came and went like the wind, their footsteps hurried. They went back and forth, creating a tense atmosphere that almost crushed the blue sky for no reason. However, only a few dozen people died on each side. The Li clan was jittery and paranoid. A storm was coming from the Allied forces. Dark clouds were pressing down on the city, threatening to destroy it. The few times they came into contact with the tail of the troops, it was so thrilling that even a low-grade supreme martial artist would break out in cold sweat. Daewoo Chingru set up an ambush and Mo Tianji led the troops to break it. Daewoo Chingru's thunderous ambush only affected a small team of the Li clan and was cleanly destroyed. However, the main force retreated safely. Those who retreated all felt as though they had escaped with their lives. The opponent's powerful strength and mighty ambush made everyone feel as though they were circling the gates of hell. This was a feeling that no one dared to recall for the rest of their lives. If not for advisor Mo Tianji's foresight, they might have, When they thought of this, they were even more impressed with Mo Tianji. The same went for Li Wubua. They no longer had any doubts about Mo Tianji's capabilities. Moreover, the Li clan was in a precarious situation now. No one in the Li clan had the ability to turn the situation around. Therefore, they could only give Mo Tianji full authority and trust him unconditionally. Of course, in these few operations, the Li clan naturally sent Li Xiongtu to the battlefield for a very legitimate reason. Li Ju stayed behind to guard the rear and accompany Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji did not have any objections to this. In fact, he approved of it very much. Moreover, his relationship with Li Ju seemed to be getting closer and closer. Occasionally, they could even joke around with each other. To the Li clan, this was no different from a sudden flash of light and dawn. As they made use of Li Xiongtu, the chances of him being sent out to deal with dangerous people became higher and higher. In the end, he did not even have time to come back. Li Xiongtu's bravery was also fully displayed in this battle. As the number of battles increased, Li Xiongtu's natural ferocity allowed him to not lose his life in dangerous situations. On the contrary, he achieved many meritorious deeds. In a short period of time, he became even more famous. On the other side, Mo Tianji had set up 2 traps in a row. Every time, the Li clan's experts were sent out in full force to deal with 1 or 2 of the 8 superclans' allied forces. One must know that the strength of the allied forces was at most 1/5 of the total strength of the respective clans. Even if the Li clan sent out all their forces, they could still win in a head-on battle against the allied forces of 2 superclans. What more a sneak attack? Every time, it was Diwu Qingru who realized that something was wrong and quickly sent out reinforcements. Only then would these people be saved. It could be said that if it wasn't for Diwu Qingru's command here, there was really a possibility that this terrifying opponent could turn the tables and defeat these elites of the 8 superclans with his insignificant strength. The terrifying level of the opponent shocked these 8 superclans and law enforcement experts who had dominated the heavenly layer for 10,000 years. In fact, they even felt a chill down their spines. After 4 or 5 encounters, many of them even had this thought: if Diwu Qingru wasn't here to command calmly, they would have gone back immediately and not participated in this battle. Damn it, the thousands of years of danger in the martial world couldn't compare to being closer to death here. Diwu Qingru's divine foresight allowed him to turn the tables time and time again. These experts of the 8 superclans couldn't help but compare him with the wise men of their own clans. But they all came to the same conclusion: compared to Diwu Qingru, those in our clans were trash. They were just mediocre. During this period of time, although Diwu Qingru and Mo Tianji didn't have any glorious battle achievements, they each established an unshakable authority. Mo Tianji had absolute power, but Diwu Qingru had also achieved complete control. All of this happened in just a short month. No one knew that the reason why their prestige had soared this time was because the 2 supreme commanders had reached a tacit understanding with each other. They had helped each other, each took what they needed. And the ones who needed to be sacrificed were a group of experts from the big clans who were already convinced and couldn't wait to prostrate themselves in front of them. Just as Diwu Qingru's reputation gradually shone like the sun, suddenly, a rumor silently spread among the allied forces. Commander Diwu is now just a subordinate of the Zhuge clan. It can be said that he has no strength, no status, no qualifications, and no background. But he reached such heights with his bare hands and his own strength. And Commander Diwu is just helping. If one day, Commander Diwu establishes his own clan and has a certain level of strength, what will happen? This rumor was like a silent spring rain that moistened things and quietly spread among the allied forces. When everyone heard this rumor, they naturally came up with the same answer: if that's the case, Commander Diwu will be invincible in the world. No strength, no status, no background, no qualifications, but Diwu Qingru can still make the heroes of the world bow their heads and obey him wholeheartedly. What if he has strength, status, and background? Is there a need to think about it? Diwu Qingru is absolutely invincible in the world. But, this invincibility, what does it mean? It means Diwu Qingru's clan will become the #1 clan in the heavenly layer. Moreover, He has more than 100% chance of unifying the heavenly layer. It will be the first time in 10,000 years that a single person has established a super hegemony. He had done something that countless heroes couldn't do. Surpass the past. Then, another rumor spread: if Commander Daewoo establishes his clan, and we join, and become founding members, then, what will happen? This question was even simpler. There was no need to think about it. Everyone had the same answer in their hearts. Then, we will leave our names in the annals of history for tens of thousands of years. We will be the founding heroes of the nation. Moreover, under such people, the danger of their lives will be less than in other clans, or even more. Everyone's heart suddenly burned with passion. Chapter 1456. These two rumors shook the hearts of the experts of the big clans. Of course, the experts of the world were roped in by the big clans. But in the big clans, the real experts of their own clans accounted for at most less than half. And this was already an extremely terrifying ratio. And the backbone of the clan, most of them were not of the same surname or were the geniuses of the subsidiary clans. There were also some people who were valued for their talent and given the surname of the clan, but these people, although their status in their respective clans was not low, in fact, everyone understood, no matter how awesome I am only a high-level fighter. If my grandson fails to live up to expectations in the future, he will still be a slave. He will never be a master. But this rumor raised a possibility. If Daewoo Chingru could really achieve eternal hegemony, he would be able to oversee a region under his command, right? At that time, he would be a feudal lord, able to call the wind and summon the rain. He would be like the big clans now, able to multiply and strengthen his grandchildren. At this time, a sentence came out of nowhere. Men, who is willing to work for others for the rest of their lives? Who is willing to let their grandchildren be slaves? Nobles, generals, and ministers would rather have the guts. Do we not dare to take the risk? When this sentence came out, everyone's heart seemed to explode fiercely. The rumor had just started and Daewoo Chingru seemed to have immediately discovered it. Then, Daewoo Chingru specially gathered everyone for this matter and righteously clarified it. And absolutely denied it. This is the enemy's trick. This is the only way that the enemy's commander can divide us. How could I, Daewoo Chingru, do such a thing? I hope that everyone will not believe in the rumors. Daewoo Chingru said, the innocent will know the truth. Everyone listened and had some more admiration for Daewoo Chingru's character. And they were even more convinced of the origin of the rumor. Just as Daewoo Chingru said, in the world, except for the enemy's commander, no one can hit our biggest weakness. So, this is a vicious move. Just by using the most common rumor, it's enough to cause panic in our hearts. Yes, it was indeed panic. After Daewoo Chingru clarified, people's hearts were even more shaken. It was a kind of hope that this rumor would come true. And it was a kind of certainty, because this was what the enemy's commander had said. During this period of battle, everyone knew how powerful the enemy's commander was. Indeed, he appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Everyone wanted to tear that person into pieces, but they couldn't help but admire him. It was hard to imagine that a person's brain could be so meticulous. But now, was the rumor that he brought up really just a rumor? How could he not see Daewoo Chingru's ability? If Daewoo Chingru was not this terrifying. So, even if he came up with this rumor, what was the use? So, even that mysterious military advisor of the other side has affirmed Daewoo Chingru's ability. What else do we have to doubt? Therefore, everyone was even more tempted. But, on the surface, of course, no one would reveal it. If the world is a chessboard, I want to be the one playing the game. Inside the tent, Daewoo Chingru said to the two shadow guards of the Dharma Supreme without hesitation, using the common people as chess pieces, one win and one lose. Now, my opponent has appeared. He is the strongest opponent I've ever faced in my life. Such an opponent. Facing off against me like this is one of the greatest joys in life. Meeting one's match, meeting one's talent. Every invincible general may be able to fight his enemy to a draw on the battlefield. And this kind of thing has happened in all the dynasties. so it's not surprising. However, the two top military strategists are fighting head-on. Both of them are unprecedented geniuses. The appearance of these two people at the same time is something that has never happened in the history of the heavenly layer. This is a grand occasion for mankind. Even if the whole world is annihilated in this battle, it's worth it. This is a battle of the top. Both sides have top martial strength and top intellect. This battle will definitely shake the heavens. I can't retreat. I can't hide. I have to win, Diwu Qingru said lightly. I want to let the world know that tribulation is not invincible. I, Diwu Qingru, am the god of war. So, I want to be the first military advisor in the heavens to defeat tribulation. As long as they are evenly matched, after this battle, once the banner of the Diwu clan is raised, a storm will surge. And this is only the result of a draw. If I win, then I'll immediately become the number one clan in the heavens, the number one force. The next step is to truly conquer the heavens. I'm looking forward to it. When the entire heavens is under my feet. That's my real peak. My lifelong pursuit. Diwu Qingru looked at the white snow outside and said quietly. Even the two second-grade supreme martial artists were shocked by Diwu Qingru's ambition and grand blueprint. On the other side, Mo Tianji stood in Li Xiongtu's small courtyard with his hands behind his back, looking at the ice on the wall, lost in thought. Li Ju was sent out by him, and everyone knew that Mo Tianji had been racking his brains during this period. He was indeed tired and needed a good rest. So, when there was no battle, the Li clan tried not to disturb him and let their only hope have a good rest. But Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong could tell. Mo Tianji was not tired at all. Not only was he not tired, but he was also unprecedentedly excited. Diwu Qingru's huge pressure was on Mo Tianji alone. Under such huge pressure, Mo Tianji's master of calculation and manipulation was further awakened. The power to control the world was truly activated. Mo Tianji's wisdom seemed to be increasing every day. He was being pressured by Diwu Qingru to advance and climb higher. And this climb seemed to have no end. Mo Tianji's unparalleled military talent was truly revealed from this battle. Mature. He stood with his hands behind his back. His expression was calm. Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong stood quietly behind him, standing lazily. If this heavens is a chessboard, then I'm willing to be the player, with the stars as the chess pieces, with prosperity as the wager, with all living beings as the backing, with brothers as the support. Make my brother Tribulation proud of the heavenly layer, Mo Tianji murmured softly. What really made people feel chills down their spines was that when Mo Tianji said this sentence, he was almost at the same time as Diwu Qingru. Moreover, at the same time, two people from two different regions said almost the same sentence. Of course, it was only almost the same. After all, they were still different. But this was enough to make people who knew the truth so shocked that their minds went blank. Ao Xieyun said, if this heavens is a chessboard, and the stars are the chess pieces, then who are you? Mo Tianji, you are the player. Where are my and Butong's positions? Behind me. Mo Tianji calmly said, I have all of you behind me. You are my shield. And only you guys can give me endless confidence. If there were no you guys in this world, even if I dominated the heavens, I would still be the ruler. What's the point of dominating the stars? I need you guys to share my glory. When Mo Tianji said this, Chu Yang's figure seemed to appear in front of him. He seemed to see Chu Yang smiling and saying, no, it's us. Mo Tianji's lips curled into a sincere smile. He said quietly, yes, it's us. Every one of us has the same glory. I don't want to be alone. I want to be at the top together. An indescribable warmth rose in Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong's hearts. It wasn't surprising that Chu Yang would say something like this. Because Chu Yang had always valued relationships. He saw every one of his brothers as his flesh and blood. However, Mo Tianji was known for his deep scheming and ruthlessness. His face was cold and his heart was cold. Now, these words coming from Mo Tianji's mouth were even more touching. The two of them looked at each other and realized that the other's face was red with excitement. There had never been a moment where they felt so close to each other. We are one. Chu Yang, Jiu Duxing, Dong Wushang, Jimo, Luo Kedi, Ao Xieyun, Mo Tianji, Rui Butong, Xiedanqiong. Do you guys remember? Boss once said. Mo Tianji said with a smile, when we are at the top of the heavens, everyone has to be there. Only then will it be meaningful. Yes. We remember. Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong replied at the same time. I finally understand how Boss felt at that time. Mo Tianji said very respectfully, Boss only used his loyalty to pave a path to the top for these brothers. Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong looked at him with some confusion. Mo Tianji smiled and said, there will come a day when you will understand. This kind of thing needs to be experienced by yourselves. Ao Xieyun frowned and fell into deep thought. Mo Tianji faintly smiled, I used to be very lazy. Even though I was used to scheming and preparing for a rainy day, I had never truly gone all out to do something. I had never racked my brains to defeat someone, because in this world, I have never met someone who is worthy of me doing so. In the long run, my intelligence will never reach the peak. Why did the one who controlled the world die so early? Because he was too smart and had no opponents. Without opponents, there would be no pressure. Without pressure, there would be no motivation. So he died. And so did I. Until today. If Diwu Qingru didn't appear, I would only have Chu Yang as my opponent in this life. But Chu Yang and I will never truly fight to the death. So we are still one step away. But Diwu Qingru's appearance is the first great joy in my life. To me, I am a sharp knife, and Diwu Qingru is an excellent whetstone. Mo Tianji said faintly, to Diwu Qingru, he is the knife, and I am the whetstone. This is my chance, and it is also his chance. Let's see who will transform into a divine weapon, and who will degenerate into scrap metal. Mo Tianji said calmly. His gaze passed through the white snow and looked towards the south. It was as if he felt that in that position, in a distant place, there were two equally wise and calm gazes piercing through the air. Chapter 1457. Mo Tianji was in full swing while Diwu Qingru was actively making preparations. The two great wise men in the world had already started their battle. And the other king of Helchu, whom everyone guessed to be qualified enough to go against Diwu Qingru, had been living leisurely these few days. He had nothing to do and was very comfortable. Everyone thought that Chu Yang would definitely participate in the battle. Diwu Qingru was even prepared to fight one against two. But in reality, Chu Yang was not participating in the battle now. Instead, he was leisurely with Mo Qingwu, Dong Wushang and the rest. Other than practicing, he was just watching coldly from the sidelines. Chu Yang, my second brother, is fighting a battle of wits and courage with Diwu Qingru. But now, it looks like you've already withdrawn from this battle. Just in the form of a bystander or a surprise attack. In a huge cave. Mo Qingwu raised her head slightly and looked at Chu Yang. She asked, why is that? If your intelligence is combined with my second brother's intelligence, won't you guys be sure to win against Diwu Qingru? Chu Yang looked at Mo Qingwu with some surprise. He could feel that Mo Qingwu's intelligence was also growing rapidly. Now, she also had her own judgment of the situation. If it was the Mo Qingwu of the past, she wouldn't have said this at all. Yes, this is a tacit understanding between me and Tianji. I can only attack at the right time, but I won't affect or command. All the decisions this time belong to Tianji. This is a battle between him and Diwu Qingru. It is also something that Tianji has been longing for a long time. And for Tianji, this kind of battle may only happen once in his life. So he won't allow me to interfere. Chu Yang said slowly and thoughtfully. Mo Qingwu nodded. I see. Yes, actually, there are still some things that you don't understand. This battle was requested by Tianji himself. It is also what I want to see. Chu Yang smiled and said, after this battle, if Tianji can win, then, from then on, no one in the world will be a match for Mo Tianji in terms of intelligence. Mo Qingwu's eyes widened in shock. You're training for my brother in this battle? Training? Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. If that's the case, it is indeed very appropriate. Mo Qingwu grunted in agreement. After the four of them left that place, they directly came here. This place was very close to the Li clan. This mountain was tall enough. Most importantly, this mountain was unshakable. With the sharpness of Calamity Sword, it took Chu Yang quite a bit of effort to dig out such a large hole for the four of them to hide in. There was a suite inside the big hole. The intersecting passageway was something that Mo Lei had forced Dong Wushang to carve out with his saber. It looked to be filled with Dong Wushang's boorish style. After 2 turns inside, there was another large space. It was a bedroom. Dong Wushang and Mo Lei lived here. In the opposite direction, there was also a passageway, which was where Chu Yang and Mo Qingwu lived. Right now, Dong Wushang and Mo Lei had already gone to rest. Only Chu Yang and Mo Qingwu were here. 2 luminous pearls were embedded in the rocks above his head, filling the stone room with a hazy milky white light. Mo Qingwu lay quietly in Chu Yang's arms. After a long while, she suddenly asked, "Chu Yang, you said that you have something to tell me. May I know what it is?" Chu Yang took a deep breath and said, "Yes, there is indeed something. But..." He thought for a while and finally decided to make use of the time he had now to make things clear to Mo Qingwu in advance. If Mo Qingwu suddenly no longer had any doubts about that dream and confirmed something, Chu Yang was worried that he would lose her again. Besides, ever since Tai Butian's matter was confirmed, he had never thought of hiding it from Mo Qingwu. "It's like this, about my relationship problems." Chu Yang opened his mouth with great difficulty. "There is another woman who likes me very much," and Chu Yang made up his mind and told him the whole story. Mo Qingwu blinked her big eyes and looked at Chu Yang's face. Besides some jealousy on her little face, there was actually more curiosity about gossip. This made Chu Yang not know whether to laugh or cry. After all, she was still young. "I knew it. Big brother Chu Yang, with your good qualities, how can there not be any girls who are attracted to you?" Mo Qingwu finally finished listening. She heaved a long sigh of relief and said with some bitterness in her tone, "Now there are 2. Chu Yang coughed dryly, feeling a little nervous for some reason. "What about me?" Mo Qingwu looked up and said with some nervousness, some fear and some uneasiness, "Big brother Chu Yang, are you making a choice? Then will you choose them and not me?" Chu Yang was stunned. He had told her the whole truth with the intention of being honest and fighting for leniency. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that Mo Qingwu would actually feel a sense of crisis before he was even feeling uneasy. And it came from this side. Chu Yang felt a little dizzy. This. Qingwu, that. Chu Yang was a little confused and asked, "Little Wu, what do you think?" "I don't care." The little girl shook her head domineeringly and declared, "No matter what, you can't abandon me." Chu Yang was stunned again. "Even if you have them, you can't abandon me," the little girl said fiercely, but her tone was getting weaker and weaker. Her eyes were getting redder and redder. She started to sob. Although they were earlier than me, Chu Yang completely understood. He suddenly wanted to scold himself for being a pig head. Yes, in his previous life, Mo Qingwu was his one and only. She was the first and also the last. But in this life, Mo Qingwu was the latecomer. At least, whether it was Tai Butian or Wu Qianqian, they were earlier than Mo Qingwu. So Mo Qingwu was a little uneasy. "How could I not want you?" Chu Yang felt that his mouth had become clumsy. He said, "Even if I don't want anyone else, I will still want Xiao Wu. I'm just worried that you will reject this matter and refuse to accept them." Yes, after all, Bu Tian already has my child. Why won't I accept them?" Mo Qingwu pouted and jealousy overflowed. "They were earlier than me after all. I'm just worried that they will bully me." Chu Yang hugged her in his arms and sighed. He said, "Little Wu. I don't know how to say it, but in my heart, you are the first." "Really?" Mo Qingwu looked at him with her big eyes full of brilliance. "Really?" Chu Yang nodded vigorously to confirm. "Then I'm not worried anymore." Mo Qingwu hugged Chu Yang's neck and suddenly kissed him on the cheek. She rested her head on his shoulder and said shyly, "Brother Chu Yang. Actually, I can also give birth to children." Chu Yang shuddered. Suddenly, the beast's blood boiled. He suppressed the thoughts in his heart. He took 2 deep breaths. He said, "Qingwu, actually you don't know." Mo Qingwu gently covered his mouth with her small hand and said in a low voice, "You don't have to say anything. I'm so satisfied to be by your side." She smiled a little sadly and said, "It's better than in the dream, right? In the dream, I was so desperate to keep you and beg you. I had no self-respect and no sense of self, but I was abandoned by you like a pair of worn-out shoes. Now, I can freely stay by your side and you treat me like a pearl. I'm very satisfied," she said quietly. "I'm very satisfied, Chu Yang." Chu Yang couldn't help but be in a daze again. The one who spoke earlier was undoubtedly the little girl Mo Qingwu. But why did the one who spoke now give him the feeling of Mo Qingwu in his previous life? Little Wu. What if that dream is real? Chu Yang asked tentatively. Mo Qingwu's delicate body visibly shrank. Suddenly, she hugged Chu Yang with all her might. "No. I don't want that dream to be real. If that's the case, I'll die. I'll really die of sadness." Chu Yang hugged Mo Qingwu and looked up with his eyes wide open. Smelling the delicate fragrance on Mo Qingwu's body, his gaze was a little unfocused. Mo Tianji finally launched a counterattack. The experts of the Li clan were divided into 10 teams by him. Like 10 sharp arrows, they shot out fiercely. Instead of sitting and waiting for death, it's better to take the initiative to attack. Mo Tianji said, "So, even though we're relatively weak, we must take the initiative. If we even lose the initiative, then we'll be completely defeated. Battles have always been fought outside. No one is willing to fight in their own home. This time, they fought into the territory of the Li clan. The territory is too big and the opponent's strength is too strong. That's understandable. However, the Li clan's courtyard, this last fortress, must not become the battlefield. So we must attack immediately. Go to their place." Mo Tianji said indifferently, "No one would expect us to take the initiative to attack against the combined forces of the 8 superclans with our weak strength. However, this misconception is our chance. This time, I'll follow the army and command on the spot. My only request to all of you is that you must obey all orders. Every order must not be hesitant. Otherwise, it'll be a matter of the survival of the clan. I hope all of you will remember this. Let's go." Other than the elder master who didn't participate in the clan's operation and Mo Tianji left behind a dozen people to watch over the clan, the rest of the experts of the Li clan all set off. This was an extremely bold risk. The current Li clan was equivalent to an empty city. If they were attacked from the back, they wouldn't even be able to retreat. No one expected that after Mo Tianji commanded the Li clan army to passively deal with Diwu Qingrou's dozens of attacks, he would immediately choose to take the initiative to attack. Li Xiong too was arranged to be in the first wave together with Li Ju and Li Ba Tian. Ao Xieyun and Rui Bu Tong also set off with the army this time. They asked Mo Tianji why he made such a decision. Gambling. Actually, life is a gamble. When the time is right, you'll bet everything you have. If you win, you'll win. If you lose, you'll lose. Mo Tianji said, "But during this period of time, our stance has been to defend. We've never moved out on a large scale. Going out in full force without leaving a way out is a taboo for military strategists. As the military advisor, I'm going to commit a taboo this time." Chapter 1458. Ao Xieyun scratched his head. "It's too risky. Diwu Qingru is cautious by nature. He won't make such a mistake." Mo Tianji's eyes lit up. "So he won't believe that I'll make such a huge mistake. If Diwu Qingru can predict it in advance, then we've already lost this battle. But I'm confident that Diwu Qingru won't predict it." Mo Tianji was moving forward at a very fast speed. He insipidly said, "That's because I didn't think about it before this. I made this decision after a flash of inspiration. It hasn't been more than half an hour since I set off from here and arrived at this place." Ao Xieyun was shocked. "You mobilized the entire army on a whim? Even I was surprised. So Diwu Qingru won't predict it in advance." Mo Tianji looked at the Li clan troops in snow-white clothes that almost blended into the white snow. He smiled a little proudly. And then? Ao Xieyun asked. Mo Tianji frowned and said, and then, there's no plan now. Diwu Qingrou's strategy has already reached a stage where there's no trace to be found. So, I can only deal with it as it comes, and then decide on the next step. Ao Xieyun was surprised and didn't say anything. Mo Tianji smiled and patted Ao Xieyun's shoulder. What kind of enemy needs to be dealt with a certain kind of strategy? Yes, that's it. As he said that, Mo Tianji sped forward, leaving Ao Xieyun behind. Obviously, he didn't want to talk about this topic. Ao Xieyun scratched his head and asked Rui Butong, "What do you think?" Rui Butong rolled his eyes. "What do I think when Mo Tianji is by my side? I've never used my brain." Ao Xieyun was furious. He scolded, "Fuck. When Mo Tianji isn't by your side, you've never used your brain either. You're brainless." Rui Butong was almost stunned. He said in confusion, "What does this have to do with me? Fuck, why are you targeting me for no reason?" Ao Xieyun had already flown several hundred feet away. Diwu Qingru had come into contact with Mo Tianji several times. So, he had come to realize how powerful Mo Tianji was. He had never met such a strong opponent. For a moment, his fighting spirit was also burning. It had always been Diwu Qingru who led others by the nose. But now, he had a feeling that things were out of his control. Every time they touched. Whatever he wanted to achieve, the person opposite him seemed to know everything. And when he wants to cooperate with me, it's usually when he wants to get some benefits from me. He could cooperate and even make concessions according to his own deployment to achieve the goal he wanted to achieve. For example, raising morale. For example, increasing the speed of the formation of the Diwu family and so on. But when he didn't want to let him get these things, which meant that when he wanted to gain more benefits from his deployment, that side would often give him a head-on blow, or completely destroy everything, or even cut him in half. And these were also done under extremely limited circumstances. Of course, when he wanted something. In that case, he had to give the other party some leeway so that the other party could also reap the same benefits, just a little smaller. For this, he had to send out a signal in advance for the other party to cooperate. In other words, if he didn't let the other party see the benefits, then the other party definitely wouldn't cooperate. And when there was some action on the other side, and that person wanted to get some benefits or authority, the other side's action would also give him a clear hint. At that time, he would also see the corresponding benefits. Although it was a little aggrieved, it was for what he could get. He also had to cooperate. But the current situation was one point. Diwu Qingru knew that he had the upper hand in terms of strength, but in terms of real planning, he was slightly inferior to the other party. That was, he had once made an action that he wanted to gain a lot of benefits, and it was beyond the other party's tolerance range. At that time, the other party didn't cooperate at all and gave him a head-on blow. Although he didn't suffer a big loss, Diwu Qingru could see from the other party's deployment that the other party was a little angry. On the other hand, the other party didn't do such a thing that was beyond his tolerance at all. Everything was carried out within the range of propriety, measurement, control, and grasp. This showed that the other party's sense of propriety was perfect, and he wasn't greedy at all. He also had a good grasp of the overall situation and other aspects. Zun Zun was elegant, smiling at the wind and the clouds. Diwu Qingru praised, "You are indeed worthy of being called tribulation strategist. You are worthy of your reputation, and you have the demeanor of a great general. But, the reason why I took the risk that day was to test you. Secondly, the wish of the ancestors of the Diwu clan put a lot of pressure on me. However, you didn't have such pressure at all. That's why I lost. But I can't make the same mistake again, so, it's still unknown who will win in the future. Now I have realized my mistake, and the strength of my side is several times that of yours, so, the initiative is still with me. But no matter what, to fight with such an opponent with all my strength is not a waste of my life." These were Diwu Qingru's words. Diwu Qingru could clearly feel that the experts in the camp were looking at him in a very different light after he had used the rumors to create momentum for himself. This gave Diwu Qingru a kind of pressure and a kind of fighting spirit. It gave him a feeling of floating. This was not a feeling of complacency. Rather, it was a feeling of the goal of a lifetime of hard work is right in front of you, at my fingertips. The Diwu clan, for more than 10,000 years, had been thinking of reviving the clan's reputation. But under the wings of the Zhuge clan, it was suppressed once it got better. It had become the extravagant hope of countless generations. Now, they finally saw the dawn, and it was the dawn of unifying the world. Because he didn't expect that the Diwu clan actually had such a strong backer. Dharma Supreme. There has been no action for 2 days, Diwu Qingru thought secretly. Presumably, the opponent can't wait anymore, right? Then, it should be time for him to deploy the next step of the plan now. Thinking, Diwu Qingru walked toward the big tent. It was daytime now. Commander-in-Chief, the opponent has made a move. Halfway there, someone quickly came to report. Oh! Diwu Qingru smiled secretly. The opponent really couldn't wait anymore. According to the intelligence, the opponent seems to have a large number of people coming here now, as if it's a decisive battle. That person reported nervously. A large number of people? Like a decisive battle? Diwu Qingru almost laughed. This is really funny. With the opponent's strength, what right does he have to fight with us? He can only drag it out slowly, and definitely won't have a decisive battle. Yes. Diwu Qingru said, in that case, the opponent is coming. Suddenly, he paused and said, repeat what you said just now, don't miss a single word. That person was startled. He recalled and said, according to the intelligence, the opponent seems to have a large number of people coming here now, as if it's a decisive battle. Is it this sentence? That's right. Diwu Qingru nodded. It is this sentence, and this sentence has the word seems. Is this what the intelligence said? Yes. That person nodded. Seems. Seems. Diwu Qingru shook his head. Seems to have a large number of people. Really interesting. Pass down the order, summon all the leaders of the super clans for a meeting. Yes. The sooner the better. Yes. In just a breath's time, everyone had gathered. In the middle of the tent, Lan Morfeng was guarding the communication jade, not moving at all. Now, his mission was to support and maintain the communication jade with his own cultivation and ensure that the communication was smooth. Originally, this didn't require an expert of his level, but now that the battle was urgent, no one had any objections when Diwu Qingru suggested that Lan Morfeng guard it. Everyone was already seated, and all eyes were on Diwu Qingru. Any new news? Diwu Qingru asked Lan Morfeng. No, only news just came. Lan Morfeng said, a large number of people are coming here, and they've already passed the area where our messenger is. Is it just one team? Or several? Diwu Qingru asked again. One team. Lan Morfeng replied immediately. Is there anything special about the opponent's form and the posture they took when they took action before this? Frowning, Diwu Qingru asked calmly. It's exactly the same as any of the previous operations, just that this time, the scale is a little bigger. Lan Morfeng answered honestly. But this scale is a little bigger, but there's a seams. Frowning, Diwu Qingru asked, is that so? Lan Morfeng considered for a moment and replied, yes. Contact that side immediately. Diwu Qingru waved his hand. Find out what this seams is about. Lan Morfeng transmitted his cultivation at once, and the communication jade lit up at once. Then, a message came from the other side. What's the matter, Master Lan? The other side reacted very quickly, which meant that they had been waiting in front of the communication jade all along. Diwu Qingru nodded lightly. Why is there seams in the intelligence just now? Lan Morfeng immediately asked. Seems like a large number of people are coming here. What does seems mean? As if it's a decisive battle. Since when can you evaluate the decisive battle? Chapter 1459. After arranging the guards of the Yi and Xiao clans, Diwu Qingru looked at the other 3 clans. After thinking for a while, he continued, the She clan has just finished a long journey. Although they can't be idle now, they can't join the battle immediately either. They can stay between the 2 clans. If they need help, they can rush over. If not, they can stay put. Yes. Shichiji of the She clan nodded. Now, he had learned his lesson and didn't dare to be rude. And Diwu Qingru's arrangement was so meticulous that he sympathized with the She clan's physical strength. Even if he had just arrived, he couldn't help but feel a warm feeling of being not neglected. Diwu Qingru smiled and continued. Also, the experts of the Chen and Ling clans, Elder Chen, please lead people to leave the current camp and ambush 50 miles in front of the Zhuge clan camp. And the Ling clan, ambush 50 miles in front of the Zhuge clan camp. If the enemy doesn't come in, they can retreat easily and leave unharmed. But if they go this way, they can ignore them. But if they come over and realize that things are not going well and want to go back, kill them immediately. At that time, send a signal. The Zhuge clan, Yi clan, Xiao clan and Zhuge clan will attack together. The big clans will trap the enemy here. Then, the law enforcement officers will move out immediately and wipe them all out. Yes. Everyone agreed at the same time. Wipe them all out. These 2 words aroused everyone's battle enthusiasm and confidence. Diwu Qingru's arrangement now was equivalent to turning their own situation into a huge trap. If the enemy really came, they would have more confidence to escape. Almost no. A mere 300 people wanted to attack the camp of thousands of supreme martial artists. What a joke. Our previous camp was Fang Chao's Feng Q. That was an ancient military formation that took care of everything. It could deal with the enemy's army and mobilize all the troops to resist. However, that was a normal military formation that was suitable for victory. But it wasn't suitable for a war situation where all the experts were. Especially when the enemy attacked suddenly. We can't use that kind of military formation all the more. Diwu Qingru explained softly. Every time at such a time, he would feel a little annoyed. But he had to. Because now, he hadn't reached the point of absolute control. And now, he needed to win people's hearts, all the more so. If the enemy comes, they will definitely advance and retreat quickly, Diwu Qingru said. They simply won't linger in battle. According to my estimation, this should be a lightning-fast battle that belongs to assassins. Therefore, all parties must react quickly. Yes. Also, we've changed our formation, but the enemy doesn't know. However, the other party definitely had a way to find out. Therefore, I request that no clan be in position at the same time. The original camp could not be revoked, and there had to be night patrols as usual. However, we must also create a commotion over there to show that we have reinforcements. In that case, if it was an ordinary military strategist, he would definitely retreat because we were already prepared. However, the other party was definitely not an ordinary person. He would definitely be able to determine where our weakness was at first glance from our arrangements, and then he would attack us in an extremely short amount of time. Attack. And, we are surrounded by tight walls on all sides. Our weakness is the army, Diwu Qingru insipidly said. The lack of an army is the biggest taboo for a military strategist. Although the other party thought that I would not make such a mistake, their attack was very sudden. Therefore, it was imperative for me to deploy the troops to the most dangerous position at this time. Ordinary people would not dare to attack the army at this time, but the other party would definitely dare. Because this is the most efficient attack under the current circumstances, and also the most fatal. Moreover, he has already deployed my men. Therefore, once the army is attacked, everyone must immediately return to reinforce, and form an encirclement at the first moment. Assume the posture of a reinforcement army, and force the other party to escape. Once the other party escapes, the ambush will immediately explode and intercept them, and we will catch up from behind. At that time, it will be the real encirclement, Diwu Qingru said as he used his finger to point out the location on the map. Everyone nodded repeatedly. Just this arrangement alone meant that the commanders of both sides had already silently exchanged a few blows with each other. Of course, the other party may think that the reinforcements from the two horns are a bluff. Therefore, there is still the possibility of an attack, and no matter where they attack, we must reinforce at the same time, outflank, drive away, and then encircle a second time to annihilate. Diwu Qingru insipidly said, if someone messes up this plan, then, it is really a joke with our common lives, we will definitely not neglect it. Everyone said in unison. In addition, I will follow the pre-agreed flag signals, and according to the changes in the situation, change, transfer, or make other arrangements at any time. Everyone must remember, no matter how harsh the battle is, there must be a dedicated person to watch the flag signal. Then, the first reaction will be made. Yes. Contact each other. If there is a purpose, pay attention to the sound transmission. Any long howl or roar may be guessed by the other party. Yes. Diwu Qingru's last sentence could be said to have hit the weak spot of these people. Which one of these masters was not once invincible in the world? They were already used to roaring when they were excited, or roaring when they needed to communicate. These were the characteristics of martial artists in Jianghu. However, if they did this, their companions could hear it, and so could the other party. Moreover, the other party was a person whose wisdom was comparable to a monster. Moreover, it was a position that was rumored to not fail for thousands of years. Tribulation's think tank. If such a person could not guess the intention of the roar or howl, and could not see the danger, then it would be an insult to the think tank of tribulation. Diwu Qingru reviewed his plan again, and made sure that there was nothing left out. Then, he said lightly, get ready immediately. Yes. Everyone dispersed one after another. They were swift and decisive as they immediately carried out the orders strictly. Diwu Qingru stood in the big tent with an indifferent look. Two shadows quietly appeared beside him, and looked at him with some doubts. What you are doing seems too comprehensive, Diwu Qingru said lightly, not necessarily. The war situation is changeable. Then, he did not speak anymore. The two shadows were stunned. Diwu Qingru closed his eyes and rested. However, he knew in his heart that if they really wanted to attack, they would not attack the army. The only thing that seemed to be overlooked was the benefit that Diwu Qingru had prepared for the other party. The reinforcement of a clan's strength was to minimize the loss. Diwu Qingru knew very well that he had not completely controlled it. If the other party really attacked, his plan would be ruined by someone. At that time, the blink of an eye would be the time for the other party to escape. Then, he could use this as a pretext to make use of the loss to make his prestige reach the real peak. This was his own benefit. Of course, if he could really devour the other party, Diwu Qingru would not hesitate at all. Mo Tianji, what do you, the master of calculation and manipulation, want this time? Diwu Qingru was deep in thought, and his brows were somewhat heavy. As the master of calamity sword, where is Chu Yang hiding now, preparing to give me a fatal blow? The Li clan troops were like white lightning, traveling 5,700 miles at an extremely fast speed. Now, they were already in the northwest direction of the Allied army camp. The distance was less than 200 miles. In the first 500 miles, Mo Tianji had asked everyone to stay close to the ground and travel quickly. With the help of the wind and snow, they were like a snow-white carpet that continued to slide forward. In such a place where the wind and snow were raging, even someone with good eyesight would need to be very close to see that there were hundreds of people moving here. Mo Tianji definitely did not send out 200 to 300 people as Diwu Qingru had guessed. Instead, he sent out all the peak forces of the Li clan. Even the lightly injured had come this time. 332 people, more than 500 martial saints of all levels and close to 400 supreme martial artists of all levels. This was the most luxurious troop that the Li clan could bring out now. Such a lineup was more than double of the 200 to 300 people that Diwu Qingru had guessed. But from this, it could be seen how big the risk and gamble that Mo Tianji had mentioned were. If the enemy saw through it, the consequences would be huge. But, it was still not done. Mo Tianji waved his hand, and all the troops knelt down neatly. looking at the vast snowfield in front of them. Mo Tianji raised 2 fingers. Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong moved at the same time, quietly gliding past. But their speed was as fast as shooting stars. Even though they were moving in front of everyone still felt that they could not see clearly. It was as if a gust of wind had blown up a patch of snow, and the snow danced in the wind and disappeared without a trace. Everyone was shocked. Tribulation was indeed amazing. This concealment technique was really amazing. This was a matter of great importance. Mo Tianji would not trust the Li clan when it came to scouting the enemy. Besides, with the concealment technique that Chu Yang had personally taught them, and the strength of Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong's clans, they were the best candidates to carry out this mission. They were even more confident than supreme martial artist. And this was also the reason why Mo Tianji had chosen to bring Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong instead of Jiyu Duxing and the rest. It was for the sake of reliable intelligence at this time. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong completely disappeared with a sweep of the wind and snow. Mo Tianji lowered his head and buried it in the wind and snow. Everyone did the same. The wind and snow swept and buried the whole group in an instant. Mo Tianji's actions and aura were filled with confidence. It was as if he was absolutely certain that nothing would go wrong. This made some of the people whose hearts were thumping instantly calm down. Not long after, Ao Xieyun appeared in the wind and snow. He practically burrowed under the layer of snow and came in front of Mo Tianji. "Everything is as you expected," Ao Xieyun said. His voice was very low, but the few people around Mo Tianji heard it. They were instantly overjoyed. Chapter 1460. Everything is as you expected. This sentence was almost a representation of victory. Li Wubo exhaled deeply, almost imperceptibly. A huge rock in his heart was finally lifted. After all, this was a risk. The Li clan was so empty that it made one's hair stand on end. If Diwu Qingru had seen through Mo Tianji's deployment and sent people to launch a long-distance attack, it would be a joke to return now. It would definitely be too late. Although he had cooperated with Mo Tianji to formulate this operation out of high trust, Li Wubo was still worried that Diwu Qingru would see through it. After all, the other party was definitely not someone to be trifled with. As expected, he didn't see through it now. Only then could he truly be at ease. On the other side, high up in the snowy sky, Chu Yang looked at the Li clan army and laughed softly. "I see. Mo Tianji is really cunning." Dong Wushang was stunned. What? Not to mention Dong Wushang, even the experienced Mo Lei was a little puzzled. From the sky, Diwu Qingru's deployment is basically invulnerable. Other than attacking the Li clan based on the exchange of benefits, Mo Tianji can't possibly have any other way. Chu Yang smiled and said, "Wrong." When Diwu Qingru made such a decision, he had already been fooled. As he spoke, Chu Yang took a breath and said, "If it were me, I would have been fooled too. I don't understand." Dong Wushang, Mo Lei and Mo Qingwu shook their heads together. "It's okay if you don't understand. You will understand immediately when you continue watching." Chu Yang smiled. On the other side, at a secret location, Jiyu Duxing, Xie Danqiong, Ji Mo, Luo Kedi and the other 3 looked at the Allied forces camp in a daze. All of them were confused. What exactly is going on? Why can't I understand it at all? How are we going to cooperate? Don't tell me we don't need to cooperate with this operation. Xie Danqiong was also a little confused. Of course, Ji Mo and Luo Kedi didn't consider it at all. The 2 of them crossed their legs and were extremely satisfied. To these 2, they were completely uninterested in what Mo Tianji's deployment was. They just needed to rush in. They needed to retreat and run. "We have to start the operation immediately," Mo Tianji said in a low voice, but very slowly. 10 small teams, attack together. Follow the first plan and move in the formation that we rehearsed beforehand. End according to the rehearsal. Once it's over, retreat immediately. "All right, Li Wubo," Mo Tianji said, "I will accompany the team to advance. When we reach a certain location, I will follow you. I will stop at the designated location. And that position will be my first command post. Then, if you need me to command, I will use the secret code according to the agreement, and then come to the second finger wave. I only have the time to command twice, each time. None of them lasted for more than a breath. After the second time, I will immediately return to the rendezvous point to wait for you. At that time, there would only be one choice. All of you, retreat. Li Wubo said sincerely, I hope that both of your commands won't happen. Mo Tianji smiled and said, the other side will definitely react. Therefore, out of these two commands, at least one of them has to succeed. Therefore, it's best if you don't hold on to such wishful thinking. The enemy is far more powerful than you can imagine. Yes. Li Wubo nodded sternly and asked, what about the second plan? Mo Tianji faintly shook his head. There's no need for plan B. Li Wubo took a deep breath. There was a look of shock in his eyes as he replied, all right. Check your equipment one last time. Poisons, hidden weapons, poisoned weapons, as well as equipment for retreating. Mo Tianji said in a deep voice. Check complete. Don't forget, no one is allowed to make a sound. Mo Tianji looked at the snowflakes floating in the sky. Looking straight ahead, he shouted softly, let's go. These two words were spoken calmly and slowly. However, everyone suddenly felt as if the sky was filled with blood. All the men and horses were divided into 10 neat squads. Then, they shot out like 10 sharp arrows side by side. Then, they shot out like lightning. Mo Tianji, Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong followed the team and stayed at the back. Ao Xieyun said, if not, what will you do? Mo Tianji slowly shook his head. Definitely not. But this time, if Diwu Qingru doesn't have the intention of annihilating everyone and still wants to exchange benefits with you, the risk of plan B is too great. I really don't understand why you are so sure. Mo Tianji said indifferently, I've been exchanging benefits with him all this while. In fact, there were a few times when I was indeed in a situation where I had no choice but to exchange victories with him. However, the other side's reserve team never showed up. But I can feel that Diwu Qingru definitely has a reserve team. Ao Xieyun nodded. Yes, if a wise man of this level doesn't have a reserve team every time he goes to war, that would be too strange. And this time, I deliberately made such a gesture. It's tantamount to an exchange of benefits. Diwu Qingru will definitely think that I have the same guesses as him. At this time, he will also be prepared to exchange benefits with me. But he wants to see my strength and leave a backup plan. If he doesn't leave a backup plan, he won't be Diwu Qingru. And this backup plan will definitely be annihilation. If there's a chance, it's Diwu Qingru's lifelong wish to defeat the mastermind in one go. Although he himself doesn't believe that he can defeat me so early, he has to try. And what I want to destroy is his attempt. Mo Tianji said, I don't want to achieve great results in this operation. Instead, I want to tell Diwu Qingru that if he wants to achieve his goal, he must exchange benefits with me. Otherwise, if I can fight such a battle once, I can fight it a second time. Unless he sends out a team full of 8th grade supreme martial artists to fight us to the death. And now, I haven't forced the big clans to that extent. Diwu Qingru won't have that kind of authority. For now, my first plan is already enough. Mo Tianji said, I'm just waiting for Diwu Qingru to change. But we're the main attack, and he's defending now. He has to wait for us to start attacking before he can react, and this will be a beat slower. But as long as he responds, I can immediately respond to his deployment. I've set up so many deceptive formations to confuse him. My goal is to make Diwu Qingru slow at the start. That's all. Mo Tianji said quietly, it's about time. As they spoke, they had already traveled 100 miles. Suddenly, the 10 teams scattered like shooting stars. 5 of them went east, and the other 5 went west. Then, they scattered again, forming 10 complete teams. In 10 different directions, they outflanked and disappeared in a flash. Snow fluttered, and the world was silent. A faint smell of blood spread in the air. Mo Tianji stood on top of a pile of snow. Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong were beside him. Under this pile of snow, There should be a slope. Among these mountains and ravines, it was completely inconspicuous. He stood quietly. He didn't even look at the place where the battle was about to begin. He casually grabbed a handful of snow and squeezed it lightly in his hand. Then, he squeezed it into a ball of ice. Then, he grabbed another handful of snow. 2 balls of snow were squeezed into a ball of ice the size of a human head in his hand. Then, he took out a small knife and focused on carving on this ball of ice. As if there was no one around. As if nothing had happened. Suddenly, a dull sound came from afar. Suddenly, a sharp and terrifying scream tore through the air. Enemy attack! Then the cry came to an abrupt end. Immediately after, there were sounds of chaos from both sides, followed by angry curses, warning whistles, and miserable screams. There was a loud bang, and it seemed like someone had exchanged palms. Ding ding dang dang, the sound of iron being struck rang out. Of course, it was 1,000 times denser than the sound of iron being struck. White blades clashed. The ground under their feet also shook violently. Mo Tianji smiled faintly. He didn't raise his head and continued carving. Everyone thought that I was going to attack the Allied forces' camp. Who would have thought that my goal was to attack Diwu Qingru's ambush? I used myself as bait to lure Diwu Qingru into splitting his forces. I hooked Diwu Qingru's ambition and made him send troops to intercept and kill us on our way back. And now, I want to kill the 2 troops that you sent. Allied forces? I have no interest. The sound of fighting rang out. Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong turned their heads at the same time. They focused their vision and saw that in that direction, there was an arm that had been detached from a human body flying. White snow flew up fiercely. There was also a conspicuous stream of blood in the air. In an instant, that small piece of flying snow turned into a strange pink color and fell down rapidly. The 2 turned their heads and looked at Mo Tianji. Mo Tianji was focused on carving the ice ball in his hand. His eyes were focused and he didn't move at all. It was as if at this moment, this ice ball was all of his interest and attracted all of his attention. It was as if the fight in the distance had nothing to do with him at all. In the eyes of outsiders, Mo Tianji's current appearance was undoubtedly superhuman. They would definitely admire him from the bottom of their hearts. In the face of such an earth-shattering battle, how could he be so calm? How could he be an ordinary person? But Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong looked at each other. Rui Butong's mouth twitched. He said telepathically, "This guy Mo Tianji, will he die if he doesn't show off for a while?" Ao Xieyun almost laughed out loud. He nodded very seriously. Mo Tianji carefully carved, and the crystal ball in his hand slowly turned into the shape of a human head. The facial features were clear, and the eyebrows and eyes were vivid. He even carved 3 strands of beard on the chin, and it looked very handsome. Especially the pair of deep and silent eyes, with a kind of calmness that could see through the world. It was even more lifelike. Mo Tianji actually used such an ice ball to carve such a human head. Then, he held it in his hand and looked at it. Then, he added half a neck to this human head. But, below the neck, he used his palm to cut it so that it became as neat as a knife. Then, he looked at this human head carved from snow and ice. He smiled silently and held it in his hand just like that. He began to slowly carve the hair. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,